Hey everyone, this is James from Trek Reviews. You hopefully have seen my first video where I explain obviously what I'm going to be doing in this channel. Just to kind of like reiterate, these broadcasts that I'm doing are completely unscripted, completely unedited. This is just me talking to you and reviewing Star Trek episodes. That's basically it. And as I said in my first video, I'm going to start off with Star Trek The Next Generation. The reason why is because that's the first series that I grew up with, because I was born in the late 80s. In fact, I was born in 1987 when Star Trek The Next Generation first was aired. And yeah, as with every video that I'm doing and each episode that I am reviewing, please be aware there will be spoilers. It will pretty much spoil the entire episode for you, so please be warned beforehand. So today we're going to be looking at the very first episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Well, technically episodes 1 and 2, because it was a two-parter, and it's called Encounter at Farpoint. So this was the very first kind of 2 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation series. And the original air date was September the 28th, 1987. So just a couple of months before I was actually born myself. The running time was 1 hour and 32 minutes. It was a two-parter, and it featured characters such as Q, Groppler Zorn, Cole Meany as the Con Ensign, didn't have a name back then, and a few other characters that only really appear in this episode, and perhaps in a couple more early episodes. But I think the whole purpose of this particular episode was to really set off the Next Generation. It had been, you know, about 20 years since the original Star Trek had been cancelled. There'd obviously been a series of Star Trek movies. Star Trek was, you know, gaining its popularity. So Gene Roddenberry had the opportunity to bring Star Trek The Next Generation to our screens. Now, this was set, you know, about 100 years after the original series. So 2364 is the date of the first mission that the new Star Trek Starfleet, get my words out, that the new Starship Enterprise will kind of its maiden voyage, its maiden mission, with its new captain. So yeah, Encounter at Farpoint, as I mentioned, is the very first episode, and it's really clear right from the credits that this is, you know, a brand new Star Trek. This is not your grandfather's or even your father's Star Trek. This is completely different. We are first of all introduced with an absolutely beautiful image of the new Enterprise, the Enterprise D. It looks absolutely stunning. The way that it's revealed very much reminds me of the scene from the motion picture, which is actually my favorite scene from that movie, where you get that kind of panned image of the Enterprise, and you absolutely get that with the Enterprise D, and it looks absolutely stunning, and it looks completely new. What's also interesting to note as well, if I just take a step before the reveal of the ship, the actual credits of the introduction, the intro credits, it's very interesting to note that the actors' names are the only things that are shown. You don't actually see what characters they play. So you've got Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, Michael Dorn, etc., etc., but it doesn't tell you what characters they play. That actually comes later. So it's very much kind of introducing this as a new cast, a new crew. This is a new type of Star Trek. So yeah, we're introduced to a brand new captain, and this is the first kind of image that we see of Captain Picard. We can hear from the voiceover that he's British, or that's the kind of impression that we get. And, you know, Patrick Stewart's obviously a British actor, so we've got a British accent, so it's an English captain is what we think. But it's very clear that when we finally get to see his face, and we get to see the captain of the Enterprise, Patrick Stewart here playing Jean-Luc Picard, that he's actually French. It isn't, to my knowledge, it's not really explained why French captain has an English accent, but who cares? He does a fantastic job. He looks the part, and for me, he definitely has the screen presence of the leading man, which you know, I'm quite biased being British myself and him being a hero of mine, but I think he really kind of, he's different to Kirk. Don't get me wrong; he's very different to William Shatner, but he still has that presence, and I think it's a really clever kind of. We don't see his face, then we see kind of like part of his face, half of his face, and then we get the full kind of profile of the captain. And what's also interesting as well, and this is why, you know, Star Trek is so clever, is that he's bald. He doesn't have any hair. And I recall, you know, Patrick Stewart having the same concerns. You know, this is supposed to be the 24th century. Why does the captain not have hair? And the fantastic response that Patrick Stewart explained that he got from Gene Roddenberry was, no one will care. You know, yeah, male pattern balding, you know, is a thing now, but in the 24th century, no one will care. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I think I'll kind of present something a little bit later on in this video, which I think really kind of like carries on from that ethos and from that thought process of, you know, who cares? It's the 24th century. We've gone beyond those petty kind of thoughts and vanity. So basically, what happens in this episode is we are introduced to the new flagship of the United Federation of Planets, which is the USS Enterprise, the Enterprise D. As the captain explains in his captain's log, which is, you know, a staple of Star Trek, that they are traveling to the planet Deneb 4 for its maiden voyage, and their goal is to basically resolve, as Data puts it, simply resolve the mystery of Farpoint Station. And Captain Picard, and there's a little bit of banter on the bridge, banter on the bridge, like that. A bit of banter on the bridge, and it's as simple as that, is it, Data? You know, just resolve the mystery. There's a bit of a conversation there, and then, as you'll find in Star Trek, stuff starts to happen. The ship encounters a force field. Troy, who's an empath, and it's very quickly revealed that, you know, she's clearly got some sort of empathic abilities, says, oh, I feel a very strong presence, and then boom, we get the appearance of Q. Here he is the protagonist, the antagonist of the series, and there he is straight away. Now, as you can see, interestingly, he's in a 20th century uniform, and he appears as a 20th century kind of character. And, you know, Picard makes this, you know, comment of, you know, when we were wearing costumes like that, yeah, we were a savage race. And basically Q is trying to explain that he's an omnipotent being, who basically declares that the human race cannot go into space. They do not belong there because they are grievously savage. And Picard and the crew are looking confused. What do you mean? You know, we've gone beyond that. You know, to go back to the bald comment, you know, we've gone beyond that. We're no longer vain. We've evolved as a human race. This is the 24th century, don't you know? And you know, there's a great scene where you know, Q is introduced. There's the debate with Picard. There's the questioning of, you know, their current morality and our current morality as a human species. There's an acknowledgement that, you know what, yeah, we haven't always been great, but we're not there yet. And I feel like what makes this work well as the initial part of this episode is there's almost like an arrogance from Picard, and Picard is, I believe, quite an arrogant character. He's an arrogant captain in a good way, but he is quite arrogant. And straight away you see that arrogance of we're evolved, you know, we're not this. And Q really is a fantastic kind of foil to Picard's arrogance by saying, well, actually, you know, let's test you to that. Let's put you on trial. And, you know, Q, for me, I don't think that Q is necessarily a baddie in the sense. I don't think he's a bad character. He's not an evil being, but I think the writers had to kind of portray him as being a a force, had to kind of show how he was all powerful, and if at any moment he could take control of people on the bridge. And you know, straight away we get the classic Star Trek red shirt dying, where he freezes you know, the poor ensign, Ensign Ortega, I believe his name is. He freezes him, basically kills him when Ortega tries to defend his captain. You know, Captain Picard, again, quite arrogantly, this was the stun setting, surely you recognize that. Yeah, but you know, Q's demonstrating that, look, basically, excuse my language, but don't fuck with me. You know, I'm all powerful. I'm, you know, I'm in charge. You will listen to me. I've got something important to tell you. And as it transpires, the crew end up in a 21st century courtroom. And it's very clear that, you know what, oh, this has just got a little bit kind of scary now. You know, you can see from Data's face there that they're in awe of the surroundings. It's a very, you know, very good representation of how it used to be, complete with 21st century rabble. Now, they look a little bit 80s to me in terms of the dress sense. I mean, the guy's hat there, a little bit 80s. Some of the hairstyles, a little bit 80s, but hey, this was made in the 80s. But I can see that being a popular fashion in the 21st century. So, you know, who knows? Watch this space. And in this courtroom, obviously, you know, Q is the judge, and there he is. He appears as the Grand Inquisitor, and you have you know, he's being protected by these police guards that are addicted to drugs, and you know, they sniff the little tubes and, oh yeah man, and basically shoot anyone who moves. It's a powerful scene. It depicts kind of where humanity, you know, has come from in the 21st century. And you know what, back in the 80s, it was probably thought that the 21st century, you know, that's a good couple of years, that's a good couple of decades away. You know, we could, you know, things could descend into that. And let's be honest, things aren't exactly fantastic. And, you know, there could be courtrooms like that where, you know, people are kind of dispensed at will and, you know, killed at will. So yeah, there's that whole scene where they're in the courtroom, and you know, Q says that he's going to put humanity on trial. And, you know, Picard starts to realize and starts to recognize, you know what, actually, yeah, we have been grievously savage in the past, but, you know, test us now, Q, test us now, he says. And Q says, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And he's kind of serving notice at that point that, you know, I will be watching you. And that really kind of, for me, sets up the series, but also sets up the episode, this current episode, as being, you know, Q is going to be watching this. They have got to solve the mystery of Farpoint Station. Q is going to be watching in the background, lurking in the background. So complete shift change. We've not been introduced to all the characters. You know, Picard explains in his captain's log that they are short of some key positions, notably first officer. So we get to meet, you know, Picard's first officer. We also find out that he is there waiting at Farpoint Station. We get the reveal of Farpoint Station. The Bandai people who are at Farpoint Station and have devised Bandai Station are seen as kind of simple people. And the big mystery is, how is this simple race being able to create and construct Farpoint Station? And it's very much a surprise to the Federation, which is why the Enterprise, as the flagship, is being sent out to, you know, investigate it. But I think the way that this episode kind of cleverly shows that, you know, something isn't right here, something's not right, is when Riker meets with the kind of the host, Groppler Zorn, who's played fantastically by Michael Bell. He notices on Groppler Zorn's desk some apples, and he was just thinking, oh, it'd be lovely to have a nice red juicy apple, and there it is, it appears. So, you know, Riker's thinking, well, wait a minute, where's that come from? And things don't quite seem right. And Groppler Zorn himself, whilst, you know, he is brilliantly played by Michael Bell, he is, you know, he's shady. He's a shady character, and you know that he's hiding something. And these apples appearing kind of, you know, shows to Riker, something's not right here. And he's noticed that, and he's gone, right, okay. And I think later on, when we see a couple of other cast members, you know, Dr. Crusher and her son Wesley, she's shopping. She's out shopping in Farpoint Station, and she comes across this cloth. She looks at the cloth. The cloth is completely kind of blank, and then she goes back to it, and a pattern appears on it. And in this scene, in this picture, and you can, you know, see Riker in the background saying to Beverly, "Isn't it strange that they just so happened to have what you wanted?" And you know, she doesn't really think much of it, and she buys the entire barrel, which is great. Meanwhile, you know, stuff is happening on the ship. They're being chased by the energy field. They can't get away from it. There's a decision made by Captain Picard to, you know, show off the fantastic capabilities of this new Galaxy class starship, and he does the saucer sep, which is, you know, saucer separation. That's like, this is what we do. This is taking it to the next level. This is no longer 1960s polyester, polystyrene boulders. This is 1980s visual graphics. You're gonna enjoy this. And we get the saucer separation, and they meet in the battle bridge. And you can see this is the bridge of the battle bridge, where our some of the crew are staying with the rest of the crew in the saucer section. So, you know, they're doing that as a, not only to show that, you know, that there's that capability with the ship, but also to kind of prepare in case they need to go into battle. And yeah, Picard's very much on the defensive here. He's being the ship itself is being pursued by this entity. They can't get away from it. They can't outrun it. They may need to fight. He separates into the saucer. He does the saucer separation, goes into the battle bridge, and you know, he's prepared right there and then. So, you know, kind of what happens next is Riker and the crew, you know, come onto the Enterprise, and I think the first meeting between Riker and Picard is a bit cold. You know, Picard isn't dazzled by Riker's boyish charms and, you know, his cheekiness, and his height, his tallness. Instead, you know, Picard tests his first officer straight away in two ways. First of all, he shows him a video of, you know, how the journey's been so far, and Riker says, "Oh, you know," he refers to that as being, you know, basically a small thing. It's a big issue. I don't remember the line exactly, which is terrible of me, but you know, he watches the playback video and oh, this captain sees that as being a minor thing. Oh, what have I got myself into? And then he thoroughly tests Riker by saying, right, we've separated the ship to try and, you know, get ourselves ready. You're going to put it back together. So, you know, Riker has to direct the reconnect, which is a kind of an acid test of his new first officer. And when he successfully completed that, Picard kind of lightens up a little bit. We see a bit of a smile. You know, welcome back to the Enterprise, and, you know, welcome to the Enterprise, and, you know, nice to meet you, welcome aboard. So we get to see that little bit of, you know, the nice Captain Picard, which hopefully we'll see a little bit more of, because he does kind of come across in the first instance as, you know, stiff and straight and just a bit dull. You know, obviously he's still got that gravitas, that presence, and he's very much in command, but he doesn't seem very nice. He doesn't seem like someone you'd particularly want to work for. So, you know, that's nice to see, and it's a little bit cheeky as well. You know, I've tested you, you've passed the test, welcome aboard, mate. So anyway, going back to the story, basically, there's Riker takes on his duties as first officer, and the first thing that he needs to do is investigate what's happening down on the surface. And they explore the underground caverns of they explore the underground caverns of the Farpoint Station. and they can't seem to find the power source that feeds the station. So it's all very bizarre. It's all very peculiar. And what actually happens is that, again, Troy, the empath, kind of senses that there's a powerful, despairing emotion. She's overwhelmed and overcome by emotion. And out of the blue, a strange spaceship arrives and starts attacking Farpoint Station, firing on the station. So and starts kind of like firing upon the older like Bandy settlement, and they abduct Zorn as well, the kind of the person that they've had the relationship with, that Riker meets in the first place, the Groppler Zorn, the host, who's, you know, clearly kind of a shady character. And, you know, this ship turns up, the unknown entity. It starts firing on the planet, on the station, and then abducts Groppler Zorn. It doesn't take much to put two and two together and think something's going on here. He's pissed people off. This guy's pissed the wrong people off, and now he's being punished for it. So Troy's starting to sense these emotions. They can't find a power source. You know, you've had the previous instances of things just appearing from nowhere. What is going on? Something is not right here. So ship turns up, goes into orbit, fires on the settlement near the station, and Picard's got a choice. He can try and defend the station, and he actually orders the ship's phasers to fire at the craft, you know, open fire. And I like this bit because you see Q appearing on the view screen very clearly, and reminding that, look, you know, you're still on trial here. You're going to fire. Does that seem like a really kind of like peaceful thing to do? You sure you're not like a grievously savage race? Are you sure? Are you sure? He's like just goading, poking the bear. And, you know, that's why I think Q isn't necessarily a bad person. He's testing, you know, humanity. He's testing, you know, he's trying to make us a better version of ourselves. And I think, yes, okay, he's killed a member of the crew. He's demonstrated that he's a powerful being, but did he need to do that to kind of shock the crew into going, oh, we need to take this guy seriously. This guy's not just costumes and you know, comedic witty one-liners. He's, you know, he's here to kind of take us to task. So yeah, so what they then do on kind of Q's I suppose prompting, is Picard sends his away team that went down to the planet, into the caverns of the planet, to the alien ship. And when they're on the alien ship, they find that the alien ship looks a lot like those secret passages that were down on the planet. So clearly there is a link there. You know, this ship looks very similar to the caverns, is it the same technology? And they also find Groppler Zorn, who's being tortured by these beings. This energy is being held in stasis, and, you know, he's screaming, no. So, you know, clearly it doesn't take much to deduce that they've taken something from this race, and this race are coming back to take it back and to punish him. So what basically transpires is that their actions on the ship cause the alien craft to transform into kind of like this jellyfish creature. And straight away, that's the mystery of Farpoint Station. You know, Zorn comes back to the ship, he's beamed back to the ship, and he's very sorry. You know, we had no choice. You know, we found a life form. It was injured on the planet. We helped it, but whilst we were caring for it, you know, we exploited its powers, and we did what we wanted with it. So, you know, we held it captive. You know, but we nursed it to health. You know, please don't punish us. And, you know, Picard quite rightly is pretty pissed off with this. You know, this isn't good behavior, mate. You know, what are you doing? Why are you You can't do this to a life form, especially to an intelligent life form with exceptional powers, like these jellyfish creatures. So Picard again has got a choice. Does he, with a bit of goading from Q, does he punish Zorn? Does he punish the people? Does he punish the simple bandy people for their actions? Does he punish them? Or does he try and kind of resolve the situation? You can see that he's worked out the mystery of Farpoint Station, and Farpoint Station is another being. So he quite cleverly fires an energy beam onto Farpoint after the station has been evacuated, and the station transforms into another jellyfish. And we have that fantastic scene where the two jellyfish are together and away they go. And Troy feels the love and feels the gratitude from those jellyfish creatures. And yeah, in true Star Trek fashion, they've done good. They've done a good thing. They've helped these beings, and they've not only resolved the mystery of Farpoint Station, but they've helped someone in the process. Obviously, Q has Q's got to take credit for this. Q was ultimately the person who the being who forced Picard's hand, who helped kind of Picard along the way, and he appears again to tell Picard that basically you've passed this test, but I'll still be watching. Just because you've passed this test, I'll still be watching you. I still think you're savage, Picard. I still think that there's a bit in you, which is why you wanted to fire upon them. I know your game. So yeah, so he's kind of warned. He's hinting that they will meet again, and that is the very first episode. For me, I think it's a good episode. It's a good episode in terms of it really does effectively introduce you to brand new starship, brand new characters, and some brand new technologies as well. I mean, I'll just pick out a few highlights for me. First of all, you've got the holodeck, and there's that great scene where Data, who's quite clearly the kind of the Spock character in this new in this new venture, is exploring his humanity, and Riker comes into the holodeck to find him, and there's a great scene there where they're whistling "Pop Goes the Weasel," and you can see that Data envies Riker for being able to actually whistle the ending, and that kind of gives a hint that he is a synthetic being that actually envies human beings and wants to emulate what they do. So that's an interesting introduction, not only to the holodeck, look at this fantastic thing that we can create here, but also to Data as a character. Sticking with Riker, there is the suggestion that, well, it's a bit more of a suggestion. It's pretty obvious that he knows the empath Troy, and they got jiggy with it in the past. That's very clear, and I really like in this particular scene here that's on the picture that Picard. It's almost like Picard knows, and Picard's kind of stood there thinking, "Yeah, I knew that you guys used to smash uglies together." So but I like that amongst my crew. I like a bit of familiarity with my staff. So yeah, that again, we're learning more about those characters, about those main characters. Those two used to have a relationship. Where's that going to go, and what's the background to that? I think what's also very clever as well is that we are introduced to one of Picard's backstory. You've got Dr. Crusher here, and her son Wesley, who's kind of hiding behind her. She brings him onto the bridge because he's fascinated. He wants to be on the bridge, and Picard shows his his strictness again. How he I don't allow children on my bridge. Why are you bringing him onto my bridge? But this scene not only serves to demonstrate that he's quite an old-fashioned, strict, authoritarian figure, but actually, I know you, Wesley. Well, I don't know you, Wesley, but I knew your father. So again, we get another little snippet of, you know, Picard's history, Picard's backstory. He clearly knows the Doctor. What's the nature of that relationship? He knows the child, or knows the child's father. So there's some history there. So I thought that was really good. We also get introduced to Worf, who, you know, is a Klingon, and quite clearly a Klingon, and I think that's fascinating, and that's an interesting introduction, because it's like, well, where's that going to go? Why have we got a Klingon in Starfleet? They used to be the enemies. What's happened there? And also one of the minor characters, Chief O'Brien, whilst he doesn't have a name in this first episode, Colm Meaney appears, and he will go on, spoiler alert, he will go on to be quite a main character, not necessarily in the Next Generation, but in a later iteration, Deep Space Nine. So nice to see him and introduced to his character there. I think one of the character introductions that I personally don't like and I can't warm to, mainly because I feel that it's forced and it's very, very overacted, is that of Tasha Yar. I get it, you know, she's security officer, she needs to be forceful, she needs to be authoritative, she needs to, you know, put her point across, but I can't help feel, and I may be wrong here, that it's the 1980s trying to grapple with women being in positions of authority, but women feeling like they have to be like men. She's got the short hair, she's quite aggressive, she's a security officer. I just kind of get that feeling that it's a commentary on, you know, women trying to fight for equality with men and trying to be seen as being taken seriously and be seen as being in positions of authority. That's how it comes across for me, and I think it's a bit, you know, in your face, obvious. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to show you here that, you know, women can be, you know, equal to men, which absolutely they are, but in the 1980s probably not so much. And I think, yes, you're trying to do that, but the way that it's shown is, it kind of makes her feel like she's got to be loud and she's got to be aggressive and she's got to be, you know, to really kind of get her point across, which wasn't the case in the 1960s Star Trek, the original series. You've got Nichelle Nichols, who plays Lieutenant Uhura. She effectively demonstrates how a woman can be taken seriously, a woman can have respect, a woman can be in a position of authority without going to this, we've got to be like men and we've got to be loud and we've got to be aggressive. And it's because of that I just can't warm to Tasha Yar. I think it's overacted. I think that, you know, Denise Crosby is a great actress, and, you know, I've seen her in other things, and we may see her later in the series. And she is a good actress, don't get me wrong, good actor, good actress, don't get me wrong. But I think that in this first episode, she's really trying to channel that this is what Yar's all about. She's a bit snappy, but she's got a bit of history. You know, she's come from, you know, a bad background. She's got a bit of a chip on her shoulder, and I just can't warm to her. So, you know, when she is iced in the trial, part of me does kind of celebrate a little bit. I think, oh God, thank God, how annoying was she as a character. You know, I really don't want to tune in and see her every week. But spoiler alert, she's fives and she goes on to the next episode. But that's the one thing I'd like to change. Just tone her down a little bit and just make her, you know, she can have that presence, she can have that authority, she can, you know, she is a woman in a position of power, but it doesn't have to be so rammed down your throat, in my opinion. And I think as well, whilst we're kind of talking about controversial subjects that this particular episode brings up, and Star Trek's very good at doing this. And what I think about is the beauty of Star Trek is you can look at it decades later, where, you know, organic social change has happened within society. You know, acceptance of you know, people's ways of thinking and people's liberties and the way that people want to express themselves. You know, that has changed organically in society, and I would say that in 2022 we are far more kind of liberal and far more kind of mature in our thinking of how people like to portray themselves and present themselves than we were in the 1980s. So it's no surprise that when in one of the very early scenes, the very first scenes, we see a male officer in a dress uniform, that was kind of met with a lot of, you know, kind of, you know, oh, did you see that? Oh, isn't that silly? Oh, isn't that, you know, why is he wearing a dress? You know, that's a bit queer. And I just love the fact that I was even reading in preparation for this video. I was reading the Den of Geek, great website, but I was reading one of their reviews of this episode, and it was written in the early 2000s, and even then, that was put down as being a kind of, you know, the eyes looking that way, kind of, oh, watch out for this. There's a guy wearing a dress, and I just love the fact that, you know, we're in 2022. Who cares? Who gives a shit that he's wearing a dress? Maybe he's Scottish and he's wearing the equivalent of a kilt. Or maybe he just wants to wear a dress. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And to go back to Gene Roddenberry's comments about a bald man, a bald captain, it's the 24th century. No one fucking cares. Get over it, guys. Yes, it's a man wearing a dress. Whoop-de-doo. Let's move on. It might not even be a man. They may identify as a woman. They may identify as non-binary. And I think that's the beauty of watching an old program that's trying to be controversial, trying to be, you know, trying to be out there, and looking at it from a 2022 kind of perspective and going, you know what, actually, that was very brave in the 1980s to put that onto television, and knowing that you would get a level of backlash. But in 2022, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, yeah, absolutely, that would happen in the 24th century. That would happen now. So well done, Star Trek. Again, you've shown that you're extremely forward thinking, and I love the fact that that has caused a little bit of a stir and a little bit of attention in the past. But right now, I'm here to tell you in this video that let's put all of that to bed. That is a welcome addition, in my opinion. And I'm going to end with my favorite part of this episode, which is the torch being handed over from the original series and the original cast to the new cast. And who better than DeForest Kelley, you know, Bones McCoy himself, who's now an admiral. He's very old, 142, I want to say. I probably got that wrong. I really should have done a little bit more research. But I think this scene is absolutely fantastic because it's handing over the torch, it's handing over the baton, but it's Data that's in this scene. And I think that's what makes it work even better, because Data, as I mentioned earlier, is as close to Spock as you're going to get in the original series. He's an android, and there's that fantastic dialogue between the two of them where, you know, how do you know that figure so exactly? Well, I am an android. I remember everything that I take aboard. You sound like a Vulcan, but I don't see any pointy ears. I'm an android, just as bad. And, you know, I've probably not done that scene justice with my, you know, poor, you know, with my poor recounting of that scene. But what a scene, and fantastic to see the late great DeForest Kelley, you know, handing over the baton to the next generation. So yeah, that is Encounter at Farpoint, episodes 1 and 2 of the first series of Star Trek, and I hope you have enjoyed my overview and my comments about that episode. So all that's left to do now is to give it a rating. So without further ado, I am going to give this a 4 out of 6. So I do highly recommend that you stick with these episodes. It's the very first couple of episodes. You can't exactly not watch it. It introduced all the characters. It introduced, you know, the big baddie of the series, which is Q. It introduces the ship. It introduces the series. I don't think I need to say much more than that. You need to watch it. You have to stick with it. I'm giving it a 4 because it's not, in my opinion, it's not great. I don't think that the episode has aged well, personally. I think in some ways it's aged well, with some of the comments that I made before about, you know, men in dresses and, you know, aspects like that, and that kind of commentary. But where I don't think that it's aged well is some of the acting is very wooden. Some of the acting is very overly dramatic. And I think it's very clear that this is a pilot episode, a new show. And I still think, in my opinion, it's very much being shackled by what's come before and not wanting to piss Star Trek fans off by being too dissimilar to the original series. But where I think it succeeds and why it's a 4, not a 3, is that it stands alone as something new, something interesting, something intriguing, and absolutely something that I think you need to watch. So without further ado, thank you very much for watching this episode. I'm completely off script, as you can tell by my mumblings, my murrings, my getting words wrong. But even still, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that I've presented it in a fun way and an interesting way. If I have, please subscribe. And I'm just going to end with a little plug, and that is to say that this video has been created using StreamYard software. Please check out StreamYard at streamyard.com for all of your streaming needs. No downloads required. You simply go onto a browser and you can create professional looking videos without any need to download any software. It's absolutely worth a look. So please head to streamyard.com. So yeah, that's it. That's all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe below, and as always, put your comments in the comments bar below. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Take care. Live long and prosper. Ooh, there we go. Bye-bye.